Las Vegas. This is NAB Show Live.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to my show on cameras, what's new, on day 2 at NAB. We're here in Las Vegas. Welcome, everybody. I have some very interesting guests today, and let me introduce them. First of all, this guy here, John Humphrey, he's not my co-host. So he's one of my guests and is VP of Business Development at Hitachi Kasukai Electric America. Next to him is an old colleague from Sony in Canada, but is Rob Willocks, who's Director of Marketing for Sony Professional Solutions America. And next to him, I don't think he even needs an introduction, a gentleman who is celebrating his 50th NAB. So congratulations there, Larry Thorpe, who is Senior Fellow Professional Engineering Solutions with Canon. And last but certainly not least is Stuart Brown, who is CEO of Broadcast Wireless Systems. So let's ask, what's new in cameras? Cameras have changed a lot, but what's new at the show? What sort of changes are we seeing from, say, a year ago? Starting with you, John.
Okay. Well, I think that the 4K cameras have sort of leveled out. The people who have 4K and want 4K have purchased those 4K cameras. In the case of HDR, at least, it seems we're swinging back to HDR. And of course, better, faster, cheaper. That never fails.
I think with any technology, they're all saying they've got to keep the cost down these days. Rob?
Well, as John said, the 4K cameras have come into the market. One of our key differences is we're using 4K also as high frame rate cameras, and that has really changed the landscape of sports. So the higher quality replay at slower speeds with higher definition has really changed everything. We've done very, very large events, including the Super Bowl and playoffs. And if you've watched any major sporting events, likely our cameras. We had a lot of introductions last year. So we introduced the portable camera as well as the 35 millimeter based 4K super motion camera. This NAB, we've added capability to our existing infield cameras. So the HD versions of the 2500, we've given them capability either to be upconverted to 4K from 1080-60p, or you can use them in a HD HDR environment. So we've protected a very big base of users. And at the low end, where the systemization MSU capabilities had been for the higher end cameras, we've given our lower end cameras for education and faith almost the same controls that we've given the rest of our cameras. So it's cost effective but very comprehensive as a learning tool.
Okay. Larry, what's going to be new from Canon with regard to cameras this year?
Well, from us, and I think you see from most of the major camera manufacturers, a reflection of the flux that the marketplace is in. I mean, everybody's out there with high definition television. Everybody's scratching their head on 4K. I'm talking broadcasters, cable operators, the lot, the sports people. And you're seeing all of us now making multi-format cameras. And we have our first serious high-end A camera that's multi-format. By that I mean it can be HD or UHD. It could be 2K cinema or 4K cinema. And most of the camera manufacturers have that. And I think it's because people aren't ready to make leaps yet. But they might want a new camera, but they want to future-proof themselves. So they'll buy something that gives them the best of HD today, but be able to either switch or upgrade to 4K.
So in scratching their heads, what's actually the problem? They want a camera that it's one size fits all?
The problem is, certainly if we take television broadcast, the problem is not everybody's convinced that 4K on an 80-inch screen in the living room at normal viewing distance is distinguishable from HD. And the broadcasters are saying, why would we spend billions of dollars changing our infrastructure if that's the payback? So that's got to work its way out. At the same time, the broadcasters are all experimental. There's a tremendous amount of shooting, sports especially, going on as they learn. And then, of course, layered in on top of that is HDR. They're all exploring that, finding what I call the pearls of the beauty of it and the perils of the traps of HDR.
Right, okay. Stuart, is there a demand for 4K and UHD wireless camera solutions?
Yes, there is. Certainly in Europe, there's most of the big events are now shot entirely in 4K, so Premiership Soccer, rugby, Formula One, golf will be next, and companies like Sky and BT are delivering that as 4K direct to people's homes. All those types of events need wireless as well as cable cameras, and so yeah, the demand is quite high for that kind.
Right, okay. In the shows that I've been doing, I don't know how many acronyms, I can't remember what they all mean. So Larry, I'm going to ask you, can HDR, which we all probably know is high dynamic range, WCG be applied to HD as well as 4K UHD?
WCG, wide color gamut, and absolutely it can be applied to HD, 2K, UHD, 4K, as can HDR.
Right.
There was a lot of confusion on that issue up to maybe a year ago, but I think the ITU have now standardized HDR and everybody gets it. It applies, it's format agnostic, and wide color gamut the same. And then it boils down to what is it you want to deliver. You want to deliver something that's cinematic. Are you doing a movie? Or are you delivering something to HD TV to the home? And do you want to enhance that a little bit? And again, a lot of experimenting going on in that at the moment.
Okay. John, there are differences in HDR profiles?
Yes, a part of all those acronyms you're speaking of
I've got
is
HLG and PO.
HLG, PQ, Dolby Vision, Advanced HDR. We have lots of acronyms anyway, and our cameras, we're right now sort of suggesting an entry level to HDR would be HDR HLG as a version, which is more compatible. It's for live, real time, and we think that's a way to start into HDR.
Okay. So, you know, we've seen 2K, 4K, they're talking about 8K. If we're having problems with 4K, as you said, Larry, people scratching their heads, what are we going to do about 8K? Is it really going to happen for cameras? Rob.
Okay, go ahead.
I'd just like to mention that we had a conversation this morning about the differences between 1080p HDR with wide color gamut and 4K with the same back-end formula, and part of the difficulty is now we're just getting the tools to be able to do 4K properly. So Larry's company's introduced a series of lenses and that family's growing. We've got to train a bunch of craftspeople to kind of unlearn what they've learned and realize what HDR can bring and what good HDR looks like. And it's a process. It really is it's something that's going to take some time. We were discussing this morning that we're going to need to create an independent certified expert groups just for people doing video shading, because it can make all the difference in the world on what you're seeing. So we don't want people to see a bunch of bad 4K and bad HDR. So there's a skill set there, and we went through a very similar thing with 3D, and it became an off and on switch for a lot of people.
Yeah.
Well, that was bad 3D. I didn't enjoy it. I'm not going to get behind it. And HDR could have the same issue. As far as 8K goes, you know, it is an incredible stress on an entire system. The best of lenses, the best of cameras, the best of everything for storage.
Yeah.
But it's, you know, that continuing impetus to make better and more realistic images that I think all of us would like to achieve. It's just getting there is going to be a very tough journey.
Yeah. Stuart, with a lot of broadcasters having already HD capability, wireless capability, what issues are there for them to migrate to 4K and UHD?
Okay, well, we've got a double whammy, really, in that the RF channels are fixed in size, so we can't expand, and the numbers of channels are reducing all the time as the telcos buy more RF space. And at the same time, with a 4K signal, we have to get 8 times the amount of data into the same channel. So it's quite a high, tough thing to do, and it's only this year really that the technology's come through that's allowing us to now finally do that and offer true low delay systems.
Okay.
I mean, delay is the key. You can compress video down into much smaller, lower bit rates, but doing that and keeping the delay within a manageable a couple of frames is the key thing, and that's what we've finally managed to do this year.
So you've got 3 manufacturers in front of you. What are you going to ask them to do that will make your life more easy?
Okay. Got my list here. First of all, I would say standardise on what. If we could get some kind of standardisation on what outputs, what type of 4K outputs we're going to get. Are we going to use three 2Gs or four 3Gs or 2 6Gs? Seems to be coming along now.
Yeah.
Or obviously there are fibre interfaces as well. The second thing, don't forget that your customers for studio cameras, i.e. the ones with fibre interfaces and triacs, some of the older stuff, when they still want to use those cameras as wireless, so can we have backs please, so you can take the fibre back off and clip on something that will output video. Many of the cameras, they send it down the fibre. There's nothing in the camera head that we can use to actually put the transmitter into.
Right.
And don't forget, people need to clip batteries to them as well, because all we end up doing is building a horrible bracket and bolting it on your camera and making it look horrible. So do us a favour.
We definitely hear you.
Yeah.
So when we did the Sony Open and some of the other golf events, wireless has become just such an integral part of following groups. It's really the best shots, and you're even doing super motion wireless out on the course. So absolutely understand the requirement.
To give kudos to Sony for the HDC 2500. You actually manufactured a back side panel that we could build things into.
Yeah.
And and a battery clip for the back, and it actually made life a lot easier and made the product look like a professional camera rather than something with boxes added on.
Our difficulty is we've got the image sensor in the camera, but a lot of the processing is being done back at home base, so it's going to be that.
Yeah.
Rob, go ahead, Larry.
So if the infrastructural challenges are what we've just been hearing for 4K, it certainly answers one of the questions about 8K.
Yeah.
But there's a bigger issue in 8K, and that is the reason people are confused on 4K in the home is 80 inches doesn't cut it, 80-inch diagonal. You need 172-inch diagonal at 9 feet viewing distance to get the wow factor of 4K. You need twice that for 8K. So in my view, 8K has no place in the living room. That said, 8K I think has a golden future in cinema, in stadiums. Look at the displays and how big they're getting in museums, in command and control, in digital signage. 8K is a golden egg of the future.
And certainly in Europe, none of us have got living rooms. I don't have a wall big enough to
There
put
is
that.
one more place that 8K can be useful, and
tell
that
us about
is
it.
cutouts and zoom.
Digital zoom.
Yes, where, how many
should have
times have we
said
seen Mission Impossible where they take a crummy security camera, zoom in 50 times, and then make it brighter so they can read a license plate. You can actually do that kind of thing with 8K.
Yeah. I was at the Sports Video Group conference this weekend, and that was a big discussion that they've learned now that digital zoom with 4K has its limits. And there's experiments already have been conducted with 8K for digital zooming with great results.
Yeah.
So
16 times zoom, and you still have HD.
Fantastic. Yeah. Okay, let's move on a little bit. Is the AR VR market going to open up new markets for you guys?
I think the application that we just talked about is part of it, to be able to immerse a camera within a sporting event and be able to do some of these cutouts and zooms. It presents some very interesting challenges. I rode on the bus this morning with the gentleman that we had done the 3 HD pan and scan and then the double 4K pan and scan, and they're looking seriously at this being the next technology, because you could run this through the home, through a PlayStation, for example, and get some of the, we could bring down some of those costs to give the viewer a very unique and personal experience. So I think it's got a very important part
Larry.
in sports.
Well, I have my views, and I've been scratching my head on VR, especially from the entertainment point of view and from cinema point of view. Is it feasible? And on a panel yesterday, I actually heard the best summation. It was all that we're doing today in HD and 4K, etc. This is entertainment. VR is an experience. And certainly if you're going to have to wear headsets.
It's an isolated experience.
It's an isolating experience. With attractions, people like experiences. But it's going to be probably an addendum to entertainment. It's not going to chew into the choreography of sports as we know it today, etc. like that. I don't see it at all.
Right.
And cinema is a whole other big question that's been a raging debate in Hollywood right now. A lot of folks scratching their heads there.
Yeah.
The thing I would offer is on Friday night when I was a child, wasn't that long ago, but
It was for me.
we would we'd go to the movies, and I have a 15-year-old daughter with her friends, and their Friday night experience is extremely personal. They are looking at a very small footprint, and the entertainment that they watch is much more modest, because if I see another funny cat video, I think I'd explode. But this is the next generation of viewer that's coming in, so that personal experience might be very important to them. And I've lost my coolness factor with my daughter until I brought home PlayStation 4 with a VR, and then I sort of elevated back up. But that's the type of experience the next generation viewer may really want.
Let's move back to the more broadcast field, though. Sports has come up in the conversation. With sports now, and I had a show yesterday which actually talked about tiny cameras, and they're being used like on the Oxford and Cambridge boat race, they're getting used on the referee's helmet, this sort of thing. The fact that we're getting more and more tiny cameras, is that affecting your sales in cameras for, traditionally having 19 camera spots on a soccer field or something like that? Is that influencing, and are you guys having to look at doing smaller cameras?
Well,
I don't think it is. I think these are cameras. You'll see them. They're augmenting the pickups. I mean, everybody's running out now for sports, anywhere from 10, 20, 30 cameras, and then they're sprinkling all over in the goalposts and everywhere all these little cameras to add to the choreography of the coverage. And I don't think it's impacting the sales of the high-end cameras that do the primary shooting at all.
Yeah, I agree, Larry. It's absolutely a specialty camera.
Specialty camera.
GoPro has shown us some amazing point of view shots that you could get no other way. And they're great, but they have their place, and it is not the primary coverage.
In your business, though, that must be just a bug. You can put 4 and 5 on
it. It is, and the new technology that we've developed that actually allows us to transmit 4K works the other way, in that it allows you to transmit 4 mini cameras in one channel. So what we're doing now on cars and things like that, they can have 4 cameras, all the different angles, and all the instead of switching the signalling the car, the direct can see all 4 pictures, and all 4 pictures get shipped back to the OB. So it has its challenges. I mean, obviously everything needs to be made much smaller now, and power consumption and everything else. But it all sort of knits in with what we're doing already.
What I like is Formula One's gone kind of from a niche sport in North America to the coverage that they're doing now. When I can get 4 angles off the same car, that really tells me that these guys are quite special in what they're doing, and I think it's been tremendous. A tremendous
augmentation makes a big difference.
We talked about AR and VR. John, are there any new applications that you can see rolling out over the next 12 months for broadcast cameras?
No. In that a broadcast camera, is used pretty much the way we use it now, and I don't see any changes other than HDR and things like that. We're still going to use cameras to cover events and news pretty much the way we do now. I don't know if you guys have a different view on that, but I think broadcast is pretty stable.
I think it's the rest of the camera chain has to become a little bit more efficient. So we did a Garth Brooks concert with all mobile video. It was 25 cameras over 3 nights, 3 hours per night.
Okay.
So if you think of the amount of storage that was required for that broadcast, it was
Big
truly
data.
phenomenal. Terabytes and terabytes of data. I think the next generation codecs have to take in mind that these are going to be shot in HDR, which requires a different allocation of bits for recording. And up to very recently, 30p, for example, wasn't part of 4K, or 24p from a live production thing hasn't been part of 4K. So even in the case of that concert, I could have cut that entire storage in half by having 30p. So I think the flexibility in cameras is going to be very important, and the back-end recording technology. I can't record what that camera can throw at a system yet, so we have to take a look at that balance between increasing perhaps the bit depth, but again improving the efficiency, so I'm not creating a petabyte of storage per event.
Okay. Stuart.
Yeah, well, the technology I've discussed earlier is going to be rolled out this year, so it's quite an exciting year for wireless cameras with 4K. So at the moment we've got a system running on our stand here, but it's not ready for sale yet. So the way it's going to progress this year is hopefully in the summer we'll be able to get out and do a few events as a demonstration to prove the technology, and then it'll be available for shipping come around IBC time. Mm-hmm. So yeah, it's quite a busy year and for the wireless side of things. Yeah.
Okay.
I would like to say that maybe I misinterpreted your question slightly, and that is the direction that cameras are going. 12 gig SDI on the output of the CCUs, video over IP, up conversion to 4K from 1080p cameras. Yes, those are all things that are changing, but the way we use the cameras, I think, will remain somewhat similar. But I agree with what Rob said.
IP is really tough because IP has to be more than just making the SDI into IP. So from a camera standpoint, we've got returns, secondary camera feeds, intercom, tally, and so far none of that has really been taken into consideration. So when you talk to a major broadcaster who's looking to do, nobody's doing a small IP infrastructure, they're going to be massive IP infrastructure. So what does this mean to cameras? So we have to work that out. And we also have to work out the idea that they're going to want to put any camera into any input regardless of resolution. And right now that's a challenge, but that'll all have to come together in the future.
Yeah.
And I admire, the amount of technology that goes into a modern lens is, you can't have any errors. And when we first did the Sony Open last year in 4K, we were actually hand-picking ENG lenses to be useful, and in 1 year the lenses have come such a long way.
And the lens, this is the thing that hasn't dawned on people yet, it's the first footprint on HDR.
Yep.
And it's tougher than you think. We've learned that hard way in the last 3 or 4 years, especially when we started coming out with the 2/3 inch 4K, and when HDR was already bubbling as a thing. We had to pay attention to that. And it's an issue of how we handle speculars going up, that we don't mess them up optically. And then the HDR, you go both directions, you're expanding dynamic range. Going down, we've got to get the black reproduction in lenses better, tough, expensive, coatings. And then chromatic aberrations that you might not see a little bit. HDR increases color volume. Now you can get trapped and see a little bit chromatic aberration.
Yeah.
So we've had to really work real hard on this, and it's not clearly understood. Everybody thinks HDR is a camera and a display issue. Lens is a big footprint.
And on the other end of the camera, you've got a battery. So batteries have certain limitations these days as well.
Well, one of the, we have to take into consideration really the sweet spot in the lenses and try to refer that back to the video operator. So if you see, a video operator is really quite used to whatever f-stop I want to use, I will use. In the case now, the cameras have so much resolution that as soon as the MTF starts falling off, we've got a softer picture. So
I got to wrap up, guys. This has really been interesting. I'm delighted to have my guests, Stuart Brown, Larry Thorpe, Rob Willocks, and John Humphrey. I'm Janet. My co-host, yes. I'm Janet West. Join me for the next session on sustainability of the broadcast industry.
Hey, what's going on? Jamie Alexander here with Broadcast Beat, and I'm here at Gear House with my buddy Mark. How are you, Mark?
I'm fine, thanks. How are you?
I'm fantastic. Really excited to be here. So as you guys can see, we're in some sort of a warehouse situation, but we're gonna break it down for you. We're in front of this large mobile unit, and Mark, I want you to tell us all about what this is and why it was important for you to create this.
We needed to up the ante for the latest technology, which currently is 4K. Because of the complexity, the amount of sources, the amount of machinery needed to make this stuff happen, we had to go to something that was built with exactly the same materials as super yachts are made from, which is Columbus, which is a 4K truck right here. Needed to make this truck has a number of features in it that are very different to your typical truck you'll find in North America. Normally on the old trucks you crank things up with a handle, and basically two guys after about 45 minutes get very strong arms doing this to both lift the truck off the ground and pop out what we call an expando, which is this part of the truck. So what happens on this one is, going underneath, I will pull this out, we have a remote control. And what this remote control does is we stand off, we hit a button, and this truck deploys 4 hydraulic legs, and then the whole truck lifts itself off the ground. When it's happy that it's level, it pops this side out here by itself, and the floor folds down. And this truck deploys...
Okay, this looks great. So this is the recording area. What makes this different and special on this mobile unit?
We utilize EVS, who are a well-known survey company, and what they do is these machines enable us to record multiple sources of 4K or HD, and we're able to record them so the client can walk away with their own hard drives of what we recorded all day. But more importantly, or as importantly, we also do replays here. These are typically generated at a station like this. What makes this different is that we're able to move these stations anywhere around this truck. And that is mainly thanks to a system we've implicated in full here called VSM. So VSM is made by a German company called Lavo. What's important about that is this truck has so many sources, video and audio coming into it. We handle 4096 by 4096 audio cross points, and then close to 1,000 video cross points. A human being is in charge of all this, and we kind of got to the point where honestly we're kind of asking too much of a guy, as you could imagine.
Right.
So we have a brain that sits over all this called VSM that enables us, once we've told the brain how many sources there are, what they do, where they go, video and audio, and if you add all that up, I just told you, you're looking at like 5,000 by 5,000 sources. A guy has to tell the brain at the beginning what these sources are, and once it's in, and that took us quite a long time to do, but the beauty of it now is when we want to move any source to somewhere else, and even change the way the panels are configured, so if someone's used to it a certain way and they want to move either down there or down the back end of the truck where we're going after, or anywhere in this truck, we just press a button and all of a sudden they get the same layout in front of them, they get the same panels, and we can do that very, very quickly and easily. And that makes people happy. The truck where we're going after. Effectively, this is a 15-person control room. Again, because of what I said earlier on about VSM and the way that we can manipulate and move easily certain positions, working positions, operational positions around a truck, we've kind of given people a palette, for want of a better word, of a production palette. So they walk in and we go, who do you want where? We're not telling them where they go.
Yes.
And that's a big, big difference.
So this monitor wall is pretty amazing. Is this in 4K also?
Yes, it is. This happens to be the only all 4K monitor wall currently in North America that we know of. We've done our research, so I think it's safe to say it.
Thank you so much for spending your time showing us this remarkable creation. And
Not at all.
gosh, so much more to come, right?
Yes, indeed. Yeah, keep them peeled for sure.
Okay.
Las Vegas. This is NAB Show Live, produced by Broadcast Beat.
Good morning, everybody. How are we on day 2 at NAB? How are the feet? We get a few laughs here. I'm Janet West, and I'm delighted to invite you to the session on sustainability. Now, why are we talking about sustainability here at NAB when a particular blonde gentleman in the US doesn't believe in climate change? Well, climate change is happening. It's happening both from natural cycles and from man's influence. And this industry, according to several reports and some of the research I've done, is now responsible for about 9% of global emissions. That far exceeds aviation, which is 2%. Now, electronic waste, which obviously comes from this industry, is the fastest growing waste stream globally. And I want to give you a few stats. Let's just consider one day. Now, I got these stats from March the 2nd this year. There were, on one day, 3.58 billion internet users. There were 4.66 billion searches a day. 5.4 billion videos were viewed. 65 million Instagram pictures were uploaded. And on one day, 4 million smartphones were purchased. And that's 3,070,821 megawatt hours used for the internet. Interesting. And we're all talking about this industry growing, aren't we? So let me introduce my guests, and we're going to have a conversation about sustainability in this industry. So I have Keith Peltier, who is Vice President and General Manager of Dielectric. And next to him is Alicia Chang, who is Health and Science Editor for Associated Press. Welcome.
Thank you.
Good morning.
Oh, there's a lot of discussion about using and reusing things, recycling. What about RF components and things like that, Keith?
Yeah, we've been looking at our RF components quite a bit. We've been doing research on, what can be reused that's out there in the facility now. We revamped our transmission line to look at how we looked at transmission line resonances and opened that up to be able to use transmission line in additional areas outside of the typical analog days. So in those cases, the broadcaster can keep 1,000 feet of transmission line on his tower with maybe some little maintenance, as opposed to making a whole new transmission line run. Other things that we're looking at, either reusing is some of the RF components that are in the facility. Again, so you don't have to produce all those metals, build up RF components. Some of the antennas themselves that are being taken down and replaced, you can use some of that for support poles, so you don't have to remake some of those steel structures. Galvanizing is a really nasty process.
Yep.
So the more that we can save on that, the better off we're going to be. And also in our new designs, we're looking at how to create designs with lower loss, better efficiency. So in those cases, they're band tunable. So if the broadcaster has to go through another repack, hopefully they don't. But if they do, they can rechannelize it with lower loss, which means less transmitter power. So there's a lot of good things that we're doing to make sure that we're a lot more friendly to the environment.
Do you think companies over the last couple of years, because it's really only in the last couple of years that they let me talk about sustainability at a show like this, do you think companies generally are adopting things like design for the environment so that you can actually recycle and, remanufacture items?
Yeah, I would say the scale of it, depending on which company is out there, there's a wide range. But I think for the most part, a lot of people are taking it very seriously. And if you look at, how things are working over there's a lot more things that we have to be careful on, a lot more legislative things. And I think that even though in times of recession, it's always been at the forefront and things have been progressing in the right direction.
Okay. Alicia, you write a lot obviously about this, and certainly as a lecturer myself, education for sustainability and climate change is very important, and there are a lot of people that we think know about it but don't. So tell me from your perspective, what could we do better to educate this industry?
Well, one of the things we do is, we're storytellers, so we try to find stories that appeal to a lot of people. And, whether it's about climate change or, genetic engineering or any of the hot new science or medical topics, we try to find stories that appeal to people, and we try to tell it in a way, that limits jargon. We try to not have science speak, so to speak. We do people speak instead, and just try to translate and just put things into context and into perspective.
A lot of companies will say, oh, we're brilliant, we're carbon neutral. And then you talk to them and find, oh yeah, but we buy carbon credits. Well, interestingly, there were a couple of guys in the UK that went around the UK and started selling vouchers. And the vouchers they were selling were to be unfaithful. So £5 to be unfaithful. And they were saying, well, I'm going to use that £5 to give it to somebody who is faithful. And they actually got on the Jay Leno show a few years ago. And he said, what on earth are you talking about, selling vouchers for being unfaithful? And they said, well, it's just the same as carbon credits. So companies buying carbon credits really are just shifting the problem elsewhere. Do you think, Alicia, that the stories that you're telling are the right stories? In the sense that we often see on TV shows, Siberian tiger is becoming extinct or the Arctic is melting. But rarely in those shows do we put the connection between human intervention and why that's happening. What's your take on the sort of stories that we should be telling, both in the press and also on television?
A lot of it depends on the source. And, at AP, we look at the evidence and we, report things that are factual. One of the new projects that we're launching, a pilot project this year, is a series called Science Says, and it's basically a deeper look at some of the science and medical issues, and just trying to look at the evidence and show people instead of tell things that they should be looking out for in order to make informed decisions.
What do you think companies in this industry should be doing that they're not doing, Keith?
Well, I think that a lot of the companies, they need to take it as a serious step in their design process. So as soon as they start looking at, what are they developing for product, what else can they do, it needs to be one of the boxes that they check off to make sure that they're heading in that direction. Mm-hmm. Whether it's with what they use for paint, the galvanizing processes that I mentioned earlier, but how can you eliminate some of those nasty effects to the environment right from the beginning?
Yeah, from the conceptualization stage of a product. Yeah,
because once it gets through the research and development process, with businesses taking those steps forward, it's hard to reverse because it means engineering change orders. So it has to be in their forefront and how they do business every day.
I'm hearing people talk a little bit about sustainable procurement. So within a company, when they're getting products for their actual product, they're getting all the components for their product, to actually procure those items more sustainably, not buying from conflict areas, for example, in Africa or whatever. But it's quite difficult in this industry, isn't it? Because we do have specific areas where certain products only come from. How could we address that?
Yeah, specifically, a perfect example is where do we get our copper for transmission line runs? You can't just go to anywhere. There's mines in certain facilities and areas that you have to stay away from some of them, but it's not like you have 24, 30 of them. So you got to build up strategic relationships, make sure that you're working with your suppliers well to stay out of those areas but still get a good quality product.
Yeah, it needs to be all through the supply chain, doesn't it? Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Do you think the shareholders in a lot of companies are the limiting factor from dealing with sustainability? Is it really always more expensive to run your company sustainably or not?
I'm sure I'm sure a little bit. I mean, obviously the companies are looking to make as much profit as possible to make sure that they're there for their customers moving forward. But I think that we found that, as long as you build everything up front, you understand what you need to go after, and you leverage, how much resources you need in any one area, whether it's steel poles or copper line. I think that you can get them from a reliable source, be mindful of sustainability, and keep your profits healthy.
Yeah. Do you have any case studies, Alicia, of companies in this industry that are really making steps forward in sustainability? For example, Genelec, I know they were on the show last year. They're doing a lot with using waste product from the local pulp and paper industry, and they're using waste product from the aluminum plant to actually make their loudspeakers. Do you know of any other companies that are doing similar things?
I mean, I think in every community you could probably find like a business that's, trying to be more, green and more sustainable in that way. I mean, it's definitely something that, is at the forefront of many companies' agendas.
Yeah. Are you aware of any companies who are making inroads? I know Hewlett-Packard is doing a lot with their green chemistry for printers and other areas.
Right. One of the things that we're doing also is we're looking at our packaging. We're shipping product to Africa, Mexico, all over Latin America, and one of the things that we've worked with a supplier that does mushroom packaging.
Oh, I heard about that. Tell us more.
It's very robust packaging. We've been able to get away from plastics and tapes and stuff that don't biodegrade. So I think they've won quite a few awards for that packaging. It's just as stable and sturdy, and if they're at the site and it gets left behind, it's not going to be an issue like the typical packaging, cardboard, packaging tape, plastics, all that stuff. So it's
well, obviously the carbon footprint if they're growing it locally is really low.
Yeah. And we've been very successful with it too. So I mean, we've probably shipped millions of dollars worth of product for it globally. So
does the packaging look like regular packaging?
It actually does.
Okay.
Yeah, it looks like a cardboard insert. And again, we've done a lot of testing, drop testing, understanding how robust it is, and have been really successful using that for a lot of our panel antenna systems.
Mm-hmm. So what do you both feel that we should do with this industry to try and not just spread the word, because I think most people know about it, but try and get companies to actually make more steps forward in this direction? What do you think we should be doing?
I think it's a mindset, right? Working with Dielectric, for example, works with a lot of the transmitter companies, have really strong relationships with other suppliers. It's not just us doing, all the business. So it's a mindset. Go after it and make sure you're collaborating and sharing stories, so everybody's aware of it, more aware of it, marching towards, better solutions as we go on in time.
Mm-hmm. I would love to have more conversations with companies about what they're doing, and
wander around and tell them. That's what I was doing yesterday.
Yeah, I mean, I get pitches, every day about all sorts of things, and among them is just companies just trying to show how green they are. So
there's a word that I've used sometimes in my lectures called greenwashing, and quite often some companies will say they're going green, and I often find they haven't quite got the knowledge of sustainability and environmental science to make those. A lot of assumptions are made, but there are some companies doing amazing things. I think in the smartphone field there's a company in Amsterdam called Fairphone. So you've got your smartphone, it'll just look like a Galaxy or it'll look like an iPhone, but you can actually open it up and change components as the technology changes. So they can actually reduce, but it's only about 1/7 of the carbon footprint of, say, constantly changing your phones like many people do. Okay. How can we educate the industry? You were saying walk around. Should we be trying to develop standards in the industry for sustainability?
I mean,
We've got them for engineering, so why don't we have them for sustainability for engineering products?
I think it's probably something that companies should talk about, amongst themselves. I report the news, and if it's something that's a trend, and if it's something that's happening or heading that way, then I'll definitely take a closer look.
Yeah. Keith?
I think a lot of the companies, and especially specifically in North America, if they're delivering product to Europe, they have to be RoHS compliant. So a lot of those types of changes have taken place. Whether it's soldering that has a high lead content, changing those types of soldering tools, and developing something that's more sustainable. So if you're a global provider, I think it certainly helps you understand what the local communities have for requirements and standards, and it makes us better at Dielectric and a lot of the other suppliers delivering product to Europe and stuff like that.
Yeah. Keith, you mentioned obviously at Dielectric that you obviously want to make some changes to do your bit, as it were. Where does that drive come from? Is it coming from the top? Is it coming from pressure from staff?
I think it starts right from the top and driving that down through and having people on your staff that have that background and that drive and being held accountable for making sure we're sustainable.
Yeah. And within Dielectric, are you dealing with CSR and volunteering and the whole gamut of sustainability, which isn't just, making products more environmentally, it's the whole company taking on a green approach?
Yes. Yeah. I mean, we still probably have some room for growth, as most companies do, certainly. And as we venture down those roads, I'm sure we're going to continue to leverage it and push the entire staff to make sure that we're marching forward.
Okay. Alicia, do you get involved with the broadcast industry a lot, or is it diverse throughout other health and science areas?
So AP is, as you know, a international news gathering organization, and we
I know you very well.
we serve, from television stations to broadcasters to traditional newspapers, and nowadays a lot of online sites too. So yes, we do. Broadcast is a huge part of our business.
Mm-hmm. Have you dealt with data centers? Because that's a large area where there's huge energy use. We're creating data at an enormous rate. Have you had discussions with what data centers are doing?
It's a topic that I specifically haven't researched myself. I think our business department, business writers have looked into that, but not so much in health and science.
Yeah, okay. Well, I've spoken to some data centers, and obviously they're trying very hard to make changes, because obviously we're creating an enormous amount of data. I was talking to Equus yesterday, and it's quite interesting what they're doing. And obviously, we've gone from normal servers in data centers to virtualizing, which actually reduces the carbon footprint. They're looking at flash storage, which is going to further reduce it. And we were actually talking about my favorite equation, which is the impact on the environment, equals population times affluence, which is expressed in GDP, and technology, which is expressed in tons of carbon dioxide. So you have I equals PAT. Now, we're not going to be able to reduce the population, are we? I don't know, unless you guys do, any government which will reduce their GDP. So where have we got to make inroads? We've got to do it in technology. And therefore, they're trying very hard. But we also have the issue of the consumerism. One of the facts I gave at the beginning was, the number of smartphones purchased in one day. We perhaps need to look at the consumerism model, which has become buy a box, throw it away, buy another one. So have you any idea how we might change that current model in this industry, Keith?
That's a tough question for sure. I mean, if you look at broadcasters right now and what they have to go after and do, I think some of them are looking at that probably more on a perspective of how much is my out-of-pocket cost and what's that going to do to the business. So they're also looking at, you know, as opposed to buying all brand new, do I look at other companies that might have my channel, might have my specifications, and reuse that, repurpose it. I'm not sure it's necessarily a sustainability that's driving that more than the economics of, you know, staying alive and being profitable. But I think it ends up being sustainable, right?
Yeah. Well, I think there are some companies doing things, and I want to thank both of you very much for joining me today. I hope you've got some message out of it, and I'm available if anybody doesn't know what to do within their company, so come and see me. I'm Janet West, and I'm delighted to have had Keith Peltier and Alicia Chang. Join me this afternoon for Gender Balance in TV, and tomorrow I'm doing shows on 360 spherical recording. We have, oh geez, I've got so many shows. I'm doing 18 half-hour shows, so bear with me. We'll be looking at media asset management. We'll be looking at standards. I mentioned about standards with for sustainability, but are we in fact making enough standards, and can standards development keep pace with the pace of technology? And thank you very much, Josh, I'm doing OTT in the cloud. And then finally, on Thursday, we'll be looking at the top 10 predictions for 2017 and looking at where people think this industry is really going, having had 4 or 5 days at the show. So I want to thank everybody very much, the audience here. Look after your feet, have a good time, don't go to too many parties, and I will see you later today. I'm Janet West, and have a good day. Stay safe.
going on? Jamie Alexander here with Broadcast Beat, and I'm here at Gear House with my buddy Mark. How are you, Mark?
I'm fine, thanks. How are you?
I'm fantastic. Really excited to be here. So as you guys can see, we're in some sort of a warehouse situation, but we're going to break it down for you. We're in front of this large mobile unit, and Mark, I want you to tell us all about what this is and why it was important for you to create this.
We needed to up the ante for the latest technology, which currently is 4K. Because of the complexity, the amount of sources, the amount of machinery needed to make this stuff happen, we had to go to something that was built with exactly the same materials as super yachts are made from, which is Columbus, which is a 4K truck right here. Needed to make this truck has a number of features in it that are very different to your typical truck you'll find in North America. Normally on the old trucks you crank things up with a handle, and basically two guys after about 45 minutes get very strong arms doing this to both lift the truck off the ground and pop out what we call an expando, which is this part of the truck. So what happens on this one is, going underneath, I will put this out, we have a remote control. And what this remote control does is we stand off, we hit a button, and this truck deploys 4 hydraulic legs, and then the whole truck lifts itself off the ground. When it's happy that it's level, it pops this side out here by itself, and the floor folds down. And this truck deploys...
Okay, this looks great. So this is the recording area. What makes this different and special on this mobile unit?
We utilize EVS, who are a well-known survey company, and what they do is these machines enable us to record multiple sources of 4K or HD, and we're able to record them so the client can walk away with their own hard drives of what we recorded all day. But more importantly, or as importantly, we also do replays here. These are typically generated at a station like this. What makes this different is that we're able to move these stations anywhere around this truck. And that is mainly thanks to a system we've implicated in full here called VSM. So VSM is made by a German company called Lavo. What's important about that is this truck has so many sources, video and audio coming into it. We handle 4096 by 4096 audio cross points, and then close to 1,000 video cross points. A human being is in charge of all this, and we kind of got to the point where honestly we're kind of asking too much of a guy, as you could imagine.
Right.
So we have a brain that sits over all this called VSM that enables us, once we've told the brain how many sources there are, what they do, where they go, video and audio, and if you add all that up, I just told you, you're looking at like 5,000 by 5,000 sources. A guy has to tell the brain at the beginning what these sources are, and once it's in, and that took us quite a long time to do, but the beauty of it now is when we want to move any source to somewhere else, and even change the way the panels are configured. So if someone's used to it a certain way and they want to move either down there or down the back end of the truck where we're going after, or anywhere in this truck, we just press a button and all of a sudden they get the same layout in front of them, they get the same panels, and we can do that very, very quickly and easily. And that makes people happy. The truck where we're going after. Effectively, this is a 15-person control room. Again, because of what I said earlier on about VSM and the way that we can manipulate and move easily certain positions, working positions, operational positions around a truck, we've kind of given people a palette, for want of a better word, of a production palette. So they walk in and we go, who do you want where? We're not telling them where they go.
Yes.
And that's a big, big difference.
So this monitor wall is pretty amazing. Is this in 4K also?
Yes, it is. This happens to be the only all 4K monitor wall currently in North America that we know of. We've done our research, so I think it's safe to say it.
Thank you so much for spending your time showing us this remarkable creation. And
Not at all.
Gosh, so much more to come, right?
Yes, indeed. Yeah, keep them peeled for sure.
Okay.